So this is the iPhone 16 Pro, and I've had it for more than a month. It's actually going on 2 months now, and I haven't covered this one too much. I've mostly been covering the 16 base and the Max. But the 16 Pro and the Pro line in general, usually being in between the lineup, doesn't usually always get the most attention. But I want to talk about my experience here and why I think this one is just right. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 16 Pro, 1 month later. So the price point on this one, $999 to start, goes up from there. This is the 6.3 inch size. So they actually increased the size over before. You'll see thinner bezels around the body. Definitely makes for a larger feeling phone, but still in that compact 6.1 inch form factor. And I don't mean super compact like mini, just your regular standard iPhone size, but with now a little bit more screen, making it potentially the just right size for most people. Because you can still kind of reach up here, you can still kind of see everything, and it doesn't feel super uncomfortably large, but it still has a large display. So I think they've pretty much nailed this thing right here. So I think they've pretty much nailed this thing here with the size and form factor of the iPhone 16 Pro. We have a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and we have the same zoom as the Max. In addition to that, a 12 megapixel telephoto. So definitely a nice new addition there to have the two 48 megapixel cameras. The Apple A18 Pro chip in here has been blazing fast with the 8 gigs of RAM and now better heat management than ever before. So when we do run benchmarks, this is about when I see it mostly warm up, along with some heavier game titles, in addition to iMovie, LumaFusion, Final Cut, things like that. That is when we will see the phone will heat up a little bit. Well, you can't really edit with Final Cut, but they have like the Final Cut camera. You're going 4K and stuff like that. That's when things will really heat up. But other than that, I think their key specs on here are pretty good. 3582 milliamp hour battery is the Achilles heel for this one for me, in terms of it being like the feature that I don't really love the most. This one is not an all-day trooper like the iPhone Max in terms of like heavy use. It's still a Pro, but it gets through most of the day. I think it'll be fine for most, but it's not like that super long distance. You can go into the next day, maybe even finish off 2 days. This one's just not doing it. This is a 1 day, all day phone, top it up. But the Max is the one you want for the battery. That's the only disappointment I'm seeing here. But it's just, you can't get that big of a battery in this smaller size. So you got to make a little bit of a sacrifice with that extra day of battery, or extra half a day for some, to get this nice form factor right here. So when it comes to the body and the build, I absolutely love this thing, man. It has a nice size in terms of the thickness. It's about 8.3 millimeters thick. The phone itself weighs only 199 grams. So the phone is about the weight of the iPhone 16 Plus, but also comes in a more compact form factor, but it has enough heft to not feel cheap. So it has like a nice lightweight, but also not too cheapy feeling. It's a really, really nice balance. It's just right. Why do you think I put just right in the title? A lot of things about the regular Pro here have been just right. They're not overly impressive. They're not under impressive. They're just right. It's probably the most well balanced in the lineup here. We don't have a SIM card tray no more, though. That was taken away on the 14 Pro, so don't expect that. Camera control here on the right. Volume rocker is also in a more comfortable location right here. So when you are holding the phone, it's easier to reach here, because on the Max, you kind of got to reach up a little bit higher to get to the volume rocker, make you for a less ergonomic feel. We also have the same camera lenses. They do stick off the body, and they stick off enough on all these newer triple camera iPhones that if you drop this on the right angle, you can easily crack that lens if it hits the right angle. So I definitely would recommend some protection. I've actually seen it happen before. On the left, we do have ourselves the action button as well as volume rockers, and the reach on those is pretty easy for my hand, although this one still is not small, so if you have smaller hands, this can still feel like quite the reach on this product. At the end of the day, from the body and build perspective, there's nothing like overly impressive in terms of like an all new radical design, but everything is mature, beautiful, polished, and just really high quality. So it's pretty much just right. There's not much else to say about it in that format. Now, from the display perspective, because we are rocking out with the 19:9 aspect ratio, this phone, even though it's small, is not narrow, so it has a nice, comfortable panel. and it's big enough for consuming media. I do have to state though, anytime you are watching content on products with a smaller screen with a dynamic island, you definitely can notice it a little bit more. If we zoom in, you'll definitely see it a little bit more because there's just less screen real estate here. But it has a really nice super Retina XDR display. It's an OLED panel made by Samsung, 120 hertz on board. Some people don't like that the refresh is not a constant 120 hertz, can make you think that it's not always as smooth as it should be comparatively to some other phones, but it's adaptive refresh and it can get down to 1 nits of brightness. So this thing can get really, really dim. The screen's actually still on, you just can't see it, it's so dim. It also can get very bright, although competitors are starting now to get brighter displays. This is topping out at 2000 nits and 1000 nits typical, which is very bright compared to some of our past years of iPhone. But competitors have surpassed them here, so they could try to make a brighter display if they wanted to really improve the iPhone's brightness outdoors in sunlight, because competitors are passing them. But overall, I think it's good enough for most. This phone still has 460 pixels per inch, which actually makes it pretty sharp. Although the bolder text doesn't make the text look that much different than any other iPhone. For iOS, I also feel like if they wanted to, they could add more pixels and make the display a little bit higher resolution to match up to some other competitors that are doing like over 500 pixels per inch, but we haven't seen that yet. I don't think Apple feels the need to do it. And while it is a spec thing, it's just something that hasn't changed in years. We've been seeing the same resolution for years and years and years. Always on display is one of the nice features that comes to this phone as well. You'll always be able to see the clock. And it's one of the main things that I don't like about the iPhone 16 base model that this one has. So it's just right in that sense as well. Nice size, nice brightness, nice resolution, nice always on display. It's just right. When it comes to the software, I was actually just doing my iOS 18.1 update. I'm going to go ahead and do it later though. It's downloaded after this video. I have it on my other products already, my iPad mini, my iPhone 16 Pro Max. So the Apple Intelligence is coming to this software right here, as well as quite a few new other features like call recording and more. So there's a lot that comes to iOS 18.1 and it's making it one of the most popular updates of the entire year. With that being said, this iPhone now, if you were to buy it now has a software that Apple was promising out the gate. So now it's an even better purchase right now than when it came out because you're getting the features that are promised in the marketing. I will say though, iOS in general 18 has been very, very nice in terms of the customizations, the ability to put apps wherever you want on screen, and the ability to now change like the colors and large icons. It's more fun to use than ever before, but it still retains that core element where it's just kind of simple and reliable for day-to-day use. And still, if you don't want to play around with iOS too much, it kind of remains the way it used to be. One thing I would like to see though is Apple change the icons, like the look of the software, because the general look of the software kind of, besides the control center, like the icons, they've been looking the same for like 10 years. I think it's time to see a radical new change to software. That would be probably pretty game changing. I don't know if we're going to see that though. Also, I would like to see split screen. Even though this is a 6.3 inch display, there are times when I want to go ahead and put a calculator here or a different software app up here. There's just times I want to do that. So I don't like the fact that, I can't split screen. It's just kind of annoying sometimes when you're in an application. Like let's say I'm in X and I want to go ahead and message someone down below, something I just seen. I got to leave X. I got to go to the messages. I'm just not a fan. So that's the main issue I have with iOS, no split screen. Other than that, everything is pretty good. I also like the new calculator app that came with the math notes. That's on all iPhones. It's really good that we finally have a history on here as well. When we are exploring the depths of the performance on the iPhone 16 Pro, we are looking at the A18 Pro chipset. That is a 3 nanometer architecture, and this does have a clock speed of 4.04 gigahertz along with 8 gigs of RAM. We're not looking at the 12, which I would have liked to see in here, and I don't know why they haven't done that yet. We'll probably see that on the 17, but I will say that other than this phone is a screamer. What's nice about the entire 16 lineup is all of them are fast, whether you go with the base, the Plus, the Pro, the Pro Max, it doesn't matter. They are all very, very quick. And that is one thing that I think you're going to find a lot of joy with these new iPhones. Super reliable, super, super fast in pretty much all areas. And one of the things I like about them is that they stay fast throughout your usage. Throughout the entire time you use it, they stay pretty much quick like that. So that's one of the fun things about using one of these Pro devices. It's just right that we finally got the Pro Max cameras on the Pro. So if I go ahead and click 2x, click 1x, you know, it just has everything the Pro Max has. So I like that. We no longer have to sacrifice when we get the Pro to get the great cameras. I'm not going to go on and on about the results. You probably know about how these perform at this point. They didn't really upgrade the entire front-facing camera, though. They could probably work on that. In addition to that, they haven't really put any 8K video, but you have spatial video support. You also do have yourself cinematic modes, raw modes, so there's a ton to play around with here in the 4K 120, which is a game changer if you like to do 120 FPS. It's a really nice thing here for this phone. The camera control button is useful if you're gonna like take a quick video. I feel like to hold down, you don't want to miss a moment. However, I feel like these buttons up here can be a little bit finicky from day to day. They just sometimes, you know, I'm just like, why is this so much slower than me just going like this? Like I could just be in there, be out of there, and be done with it. So from that perspective, the camera control button doesn't really overly impress there, but it is nice to have. It's one of those nice to haves, but you don't have to have it. That's how I feel about it. So I think the battery life on here is actually just right as well. It's just enough for a full day of medium to heavy use without extending into the second day. So while we would like to have a lot more, the sacrifice of having the heavier phone, the thicker phone, and the Max makes this Pro pretty desirable, while because it still lasts the whole day. So I think it's just right. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's right in the middle. And it's definitely better than the 15 Pro by a good amount, and better than the 14 Pro. The last phone that was this good in battery in the standard Pro model was the 13 Pro. So I like it. I'm not overly impressed. Charging speeds could be faster still, but it gets the job done. It's just right. A couple other things. Emergency SOS, satellite texting. Also, phone call quality has increased. We have better modems in here, so you have better reception strength. Speaker phones are pretty loud on here. Even for this size, the audio that comes out of here is pretty darn good. Transfer speeds are better as well than some previous iPhones and some of the base models. USB-C is nice if you're coming from one of the older phones, but other than that, we have a display port as well. Dynamic Island would be a nice upgrade for you. Programmable action button. And then over here, the all-new control center with more areas to put more buttons. This phone is a really, really solid choice. It really is. I think it's just right for most people. There's not a lot of sacrifices here. You don't have to sacrifice a extremely heavy or big size if you don't want that. You don't have to sacrifice a too small size. You don't have to have bad battery life. Although you don't get the best here, it's not bad. This one is, I think for a lot of people, the perfect balance. So that's how I feel about it after 1 month of owning this phone. And I really like the silver, or the white titanium they call it. It comes in desert as well. It also comes in the black. So that's pretty nice. It's just a nice color overall, this white titanium, which a lot of people don't get. But the natural titanium is also pretty decent if you want the most natural looking titanium. So that's going to wrap it up here for me on the iPhone 16 Pro. I will cover this in the future and some more speed tests, some comparisons, but let me know if you're going to pick one up. And if you have any further questions on this product right here, let me know down below in the comments section of this video. I also covered the regular 16, the 16 Pro Max in reviews already, and some comparisons. So if this one's not your cup of tea, I have those videos as well. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here, and I will catch you all in the next review, comparison, and speed test. Be sure to be well, and peace.